So today we're going to be making two Crew International wine kits from RJ Spagnol's. Cost is approximately $100 each with tax in. They are 5-week wine kits and include 8 liters of concentrate grape juice in each. One is Sangiovese style, which is Italy's most popular varietal grape, and the other is a Merlot. Step 1 is clean and sanitize the primary fermenter, which is these plastic buckets in 30-liter capacity. We'll be topping them up to 23 liters, which is 15 liters of water and the 8 liters of concentrate juice. We also clean the long handle spoon, the ear locks, which are what's on top of them to keep air out, and the rubber bung that they're attached to. The cleaners that we use to do that: initial clean is with ChloriClean. It's a powder. You just add a little bit to the bottom of the buckets or whatever it is that you're cleaning. And the last step is potassium monobisulfate. It's a white powder also, and you add about a teaspoon of that to your spray bottle and fill it up with regular water. Give it a shake and everything gets sprayed with that prior to use. Also need a glass measuring cup, which you'll see is used for making the oak tea afterwards. And your long handle spoon has to be wine grade, food grade long handled spoon, long enough to reach into the bucket. So the water that we're using today is from Holyrood Access Road Spring. I'd never use tap water for making wine due to the fluoride, chlorines, any other chemicals that are added to it at the water plant. So I've got 2 of these. They're about 18 liters each. So you couple that with 8 liters of juice, you should have more than enough water if you have 2 of these. And free water is better than purchased water. It's all about saving money, right? So the next step is add 4 liters of warm water to the primary fermenter, stirring constantly. So in order to do that, I've got 2 pots on the stove. Of course, they're cleaned thoroughly. And that adds up to approximately 10 to 12 liters of water, so that's more than enough. You don't need to boil it, you just need to warm it so that your whole mixture is up to beyond room temperature, somewhere between 20 and 25 degrees when you add the yeast. So that's warming up there now, and we'll move on to the next step once we add that. Okay, so now that the water is in there and it's not boiling, but it's quite warm, it will cool down fairly quickly once it's in the primary fermenters and you're stirring it to add the bentonite. So that's the next step. We're going to add 4 liters of water to each primary fermenter, and we're going to add bentonite, which is a clearing agent. It sort of grabs everything and pulls it down to the bottom and aids with clearing of the wine and the primary fermentation. So as you can see, I've taken out the bags that are included with the kits, and they have your oak chips. The other one has oak tea. They both have packets, which you'll see after, of genuine grape skins. So you put those in a mesh included sock, and it gives you better body and flavor. As you notice, I've already labeled the bags because they do have different products within them. So if you get them mixed up, you're going to be making something you didn't want to make. So that's my advice, is to label the bags as soon as you take them out of the box. Also, you'll be wondering where the genuine grape skins are. They're not in the bag. They're in a separate bag at the bottom of the box. So I've already taken them out and prepared them. I should add, it's easy to clean your primary fermenters if you've cleaned them well when you put them away. Give them a spray of metabisulfate throughout and a little drop of water in them. Snap the lids down. Put your ear bungs and ear locks installed, and they'll stay clean until such time you need to use them. So all I had to do was pour out the bit of water and metabisulfate that I had within them, give them a rinse, and they're ready to go. Okay, so I've just added approximately 4 liters of fairly hot water to the buckets. As you can see, it's steaming, but that'll cool down fairly quickly. The next step is to add the bentonite. As I mentioned, it's part of the clearing agent, and it does say on it, as you can see, first thing to add on day 1. So they say to add that slowly to each bucket, 1 packet per primary fermenter, and stir slowly as you're sprinkling it in, and get it to mix thoroughly. So go ahead and do that. So we added about 4 liters of warm, nearly hot water to each primary fermenter, and we slowly added a package each of bentonite into each bucket and stirred for approximately 3 or 4 minutes. It has the it's like a clay that you put in there. They use it in the oil industry as well, and like I said, it helps bring sediment to the bottom. Also, I should note, before you start doing this, if you're making multiple wine kits and they're different, regardless if they're different, start a sheet of paper, because these kits do not come with instructions like other kits, or paper instructions, which allows you to enter in the information that you'll see here on the sheet as I go. So Merlot day 1 and the date, and the Sangiovese at day 1 and the date. And you just keep adding to that as you do the various things on the dates that they tell you, and that'll be covered as we go. I've also used painter's tape to label the buckets. Again, if you're making more than 1 kit, label the buckets and put them in order that you have them on the table, because it's very easy to turn around and wonder whether you added a certain chemical to one bucket or the other, and then you'll screw up your wine if you don't add the chemicals to each. So that's my advice. Also, when I'm making 2 wine kits, I'll make 2 the same brand. They can be different varieties, but the instructions are the same, and if you don't do that, you'll end up having to do something today with 1 kit, something tomorrow with another kit, and the times are all off. Whereas if you make the same kits, you'll end up doing what's necessary to them on those set times and dates at the same time. It just makes life easier and less cleaning. So our next step now is to add the 8 liters of juice to each bucket, and I'll go ahead and do that, show you how it's done. It's not rocket science, but you can make a mess if you're not careful. So it's time now to add the grape juice concentrate. I've confirmed my bucket is Merlot, and I've confirmed that my kit is Merlot, so I don't screw that up. Go ahead and I'll show you one of the kits, just follow suit with the other. Okay, so in order not to make a mess, hold this tightly in the event that any is going to spill. It'll be very minimal. Pop the top off. As you can see, it's tasty. and sprays around. You can go ahead and loosen up the grip on the end of the bag. Try and get everything you can out initially. And then what we're going to do is use some of the water, the warm water from the other pot on the stove, and rinse the bag with it so that you're not leaving any concentrate behind. These bags also make excellent ice packs. So you can snap this lid back on, fill them up with water, snap the lid back onto them, you know, don't overdo it, and lay them in your freezer down this way, and you can put them on the bottom of your cooler, and they're awesome for that. Okay, so this measuring cup has been thoroughly cleaned, sanitized. Once again, with a good grip on it so nothing will leak. And there you go. Extracted everything from the bag possible. So the next move, be right back. Okay, so just an update to this point. We heated up 8 liters of water. We put approximately 4 liters in each primary fermenter. We added a package of bentonite to each bucket and stirred that in thoroughly. We then added the 8 liters of concentrate juice into each bucket. And the next stage is to top up each with water to the 23 litre mark. Do not go under the 23 litre mark and do not go over the 23 litre mark. One other thing I should note, it may be helpful to you if you have access to a printer to just go ahead and print the instructions online, because it does give you these spots to enter the days and your SG readings and that sort of thing. You can keep track of it a little easier than continuing to look at your phone. On the top of each box is a label, and that is meant to peel off and put on your instructions, or on my sheet as it were. It gives a lot number and such, so if you do have a problem with your wine kit, you can refer to the particular lot and style and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those, put them on my sheet of paper under the corresponding wine type, and then I'll fill up the water, the primary ferment. Hey! Sorry about that. Can't have dogs in your wine. Cleanliness is next to godliness when making wine. Nonetheless, we're going to fill up each bucket to the 23 litre mark with water, and we'll be right back. Okay, so both buckets are filled to the 23 litre mark. The Sangiovese kit has oak tea instead of oak chips. So you can, with oak tea, you have to add the chips into the measuring cup and some water. It says a cup, so I'm assuming a cup each. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to add the oak tea chips. There's 2 packets of them to the measuring cup. Add hot water and leave that sit for 10 minutes as it says. Oak tea. The other says oak chips, and they're much darker. I assume this is to extract as much as possible. No harm to do this over the bucket. There we are. Alright, we'll just boiling water. We'll just stir that around there for about 10 minutes. For the other kit, open bags and add it now if you have oak powder and or chips. This one has 1 bag and it says oak chips. And that's for Merlot. Merlot. Alright, next step is genuine wine skins for both kits. Try not to get dog hair all over them. Okay. Again, should be the same, but make sure you're using the proper bag, just in case. There's a different variety of grape, I imagine. So the way I like to do this, it's like so. There will be a bit of powder come out of it to make a mess on your table. Leave a lot of room. They do expand a little bit, but when you're stirring them, you want them to move around in the bag and extract as much flavor as possible to your wine. Double time with overhand safety knots. Then you can trim the excess. Once again, it's Merlot. Stir around your oak chips. Toss the bag in. And rinse and repeat for the other kit. Okay, so we added the genuine white wine skins in their bags to both kits. I've given them a fairly good stir. You can be fairly aggressive with the stirring. You want everything to be mixed up well. Don't worry about damaging, or try not to damage the sock that the wine skins are in. Our oak tea is now ready for the Sangiovese kit. We'll add that, stir it up. Then I'll put the buckets on the table. We'll add the yeast, and that'll be that. Adding this will bring up the level slightly more than 23 litres, but that's negligible. That's expected. Not a big deal. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir this for another 5 minutes each, probably, or less. And then we'll go ahead and put them on the table, and I'll show you how to sprinkle the yeast evenly. Okay, so now the kits in the primary fermenters are up on a table. That's important to have them elevated, because when you siphon you're going to need them at height. After primary fermentation is complete, you're going to want to siphon into glass carboys on the floor. So prior to tossing or pitching the yeast, as they call it, you want to use a hydrometer, and initially your reading should be specific gravity between 1.080 and 1.106. So I haven't pitched the yeast yet. You want to make an opening here away from any oak chips or the bag, just so there's nothing that's hampering it from settling or dragging it down or lifting it up. It's just at the bottom of the green there, so that is 1.090, which is right here, 1.090. Depending on the kit, you might get slightly different readings. And that's about 1.092, so that's perfect. On day 14, your reading should be 0.998 approximately, or less. That tells you that fermentation is complete, and it's not going to eat up any more sugars and give you any more alcohol, and it's time then to move on to the next step. So we'll lay our hydrometer there. When you're pitching the yeast, don't just dump it in. Just cut the corner off of it. And make sure you do even coverage across the top of the wine. Bit time consuming, but you don't want to toss it in clumps. And you don't want to be stirring it after this. You've already stirred everything completely to ensure it's uniform. Alright, so that's it. We'll do the same for the other kit and be right back. Okay, the yeast has been sprinkled over the top of both. The instructions are do not stir for 2 days. If there's no bubbling in your earlocks, no signs of fermentation, then you give it a good stir after 2 days, but nonetheless you're going to give it a stir after 2 days anyway. What you want to be doing is pushing that genuine wine skin bag against the side of the primary fermenter to squeeze, and try and extract the juice out of that. So you want to do that every 2 days until day 14. You don't want to be stirring up the bottom, but you do want to be gently pushing that wine skin and moving it around the top. You don't want to be disturbing the sediment at the bottom, but pushing that against the side of the fermenter every 2 days. will extract the most colour and flavour out of that. So we're going to snap the lids down on the wine buckets, and we're going to attach brew belts. They're handy in the winter time, unless you've got your heat up on bust on a consistent 23 degrees approximately, or 20 to 25 as they say. The brew belts are heated and they'll keep the wine at a consistent temperature. So these are, you just cinch them around, lay them down over your buckets. Bring it down low. I like about 1/3 to 1/2 up the side of the primary fermenter. Okay, snap your lids down. Make sure your earlocks are half full of water. I prefer to use the mixture of potassium metabisulfate. Purpose for that is when these start to bubble due to fermentation, they'll bubble, air will escape, but no air will get in to contaminate your wine. Oxygen is not your friend. So just make sure you top those up to half full. Then you've got sealed units. No contamination. So the last thing we're going to do is cover all of this with the sheet that we have here. Sunlight and UV is not your friend when making wine either, so keep it off of your jugs and carboys. These two here are ready for bottling. About 2 weeks ago they've been transferred from one set of carboys to another, and they're ready to transfer, give it a slight stir to make sure it's consistent, and bottle. So that one's a Cabernet Sauvignon and that one's a Syrah. So 30 bottles of wine there in each. So that pretty much concludes step 1 of the process. I'll drop back with showing you how to stir the genuine wine skins, which, like I said, should be done every 2 days by you or somebody else until such time that day 14 comes and you test to ensure that primary fermentation is complete.